I'm Gabriella Vigliocco. I'm professor of the psychology of language in the research department of experimental psychology. What are the big questions that we address in our research? Imagine that you step outside your door and you find a group of aliens wearing underpants. Now, you probably never thought about aliens wearing underpants unless you read the children's books by Claire Freeman. But what I've just done using language is to get you to think about it, to imagine it. And indeed, one of the things that language does, and that has always fascinated me, is to allow humans to share their thoughts. Not just thoughts about what they are seeing and what they are experiencing, but also about things that are not there and things that are imaginary. Humans are chatterboxes, so this role of language in sharing, in provoking, and even shaping thinking is central to every aspect of our life, and it's quite remarkable. We are the only species that has language. There are about 7,000 languages in the world, some of which are spoken, some of which are signed, and by the age of 3, children, most children at least, are already little chatterboxes. So the questions we are researching in my labs are: how can humans share experience and think about new experiences through language? How can children learn to associate words with meanings? And how does the brain do that? We use a variety of methods, including computer-based experiment, where we measure how long it takes, for example, for people to recognize words or to learn new words. Eye tracking, where we measure how long people look and where they look while they are listening to language or while they are reading. And we use brain imaging, and there we measure brain activity while people are processing language. So, language allows us to share thoughts, and actually in this way, to shape each other's thoughts. This is central to pretty much everything we do in our daily lives. And the role and the importance of language in our daily life becomes very clear when something goes wrong. So, for example, when we are trying to communicate with someone who doesn't speak English, when we move to a new country and we need to learn a different language, or more dramatically, when we lose the ability to use language, for example, because of stroke. So, what do we know so far? Because the ability to use language to communicate thoughts is only present in humans, since the 50s, the dominant view has been that language must be special. It is an ability completely different from anything else that instead we share with other species, like our ability to perceive the world and our ability to act upon the world. Language is considered to be made of symbols and to be abstract. Now, if language is special and abstract, how would it be learned? Again, the traditional view is that it must be embedded in our genes. There must be something in our gene that is a precursor of our ability to learn and to use a language. So, an alternative view that has been around for a long time, but only more recently has gained momentum, is the idea that language has evolved from our systems for action and perception, and it's processed in neural networks that overlap with perception and action. So, for example, if someone tells you about how to use a tool, you will understand what they are saying by activating your motor system, just as if you were using that tool. If someone tells you about how an object looks, You will understand what they are saying by activating your perceptual system, just as if you would be looking at that object. Now, my lab has so far provided some of the critical evidence in support of this alternative view. A challenge for this alternative embodied view is how we learn and process words that do not refer to something we can see or act upon, abstract words like idea, culture, and freedom. These abstract words do not clearly rely on our perception and our action. And we have found that these words may be based upon, may be grounded on our emotions. So first, we have found that the majority of abstract words in the English language have some sort of emotional association. Take, for example, the word algebra. This is very abstract, but if you like math, then algebra will have some positive connotation for you. If you dislike math, then it will have some negative connotation. What we have also found is that the same brain areas that process happy or sad faces are engaged when we are processing abstract words. Taking a perspective in which language is not special, but built on and linked on our emotion, perception, and action, also has paved the way to an all new line of study. Looking at how face-to-face communication provides a whole range of cues to meaning that are not in the words themselves, but that come about, for example, in the gesture that accompanies speech. Now, if we consider sign languages, we see that signs are full of imagistic connections to whatever the speaker wants to convey. If we take spoken languages, we have that gestures that accompany speech also are linked very clearly to meaning, as for example, when a speaker talks about a ball, making a round gesture like this one. Work in my laboratory is showing that this additional information is used by listeners when understanding language and actually may play a critical role in language development.